Scary Fact of Maine. If you fish off the coast of Maine, you've probably heard this story. It sounds like a ghost tale, but it's based on a real disappearance that's never been explained. In 1975, a lobster boat called the Mary Celeste II left Boothbay Harbor with a father and his 2 sons. The weather was calm. The route was familiar. They were supposed to be gone for 2 days. They never came back. No distress call, no wreckage, just gone. The Coast Guard searched for over a week. Dozens of boats, helicopters, sonar, nothing. Then, on the 5th night, a nearby fishing vessel picked up a strange radio signal on an emergency channel. Static at first, then a voice, garbled but clear enough to understand. "Don't follow the lights. We tried. Dad's gone." Then silence. The boat that received the call was less than a mile from the edge of a deep trench, one where several other boats have mysteriously vanished over the years. Some think it was a prank. Others say the boy's voice was real. Either way, the boat and its crew were never found. And every few years, someone still hears the message. Don't follow the lights. I used to think renting a cabin by the water was peaceful. Now, I can't stand the sound of waves at night. This happened last October. My girlfriend Casey and I booked a weekend getaway in Maine. The listing was for a small, private cabin right on the cliffs. No neighbors, no cell service, and definitely no Wi-Fi. That was the appeal. Just quiet. Time to unplug. The place was perfect when we got there. A little older than it looked online, but nothing sketchy. There was a long wooden deck out back that overlooked the ocean, with 2 heavy Adirondack chairs facing the water. It looked like something out of a magazine. Peaceful, remote, and honestly kind of romantic. We unpacked, made dinner, then sat outside in those chairs wrapped in a blanket, drinking wine while the waves crashed below. It was chilly but beautiful. No other lights around, just us and the ocean. We went to bed around midnight. The next morning, I stepped out to get some fresh air while Casey made coffee. That's when I noticed something weird. The chairs had moved. Not by much, maybe a foot closer to the edge, but I was pretty sure we left them closer to the wall the night before. Still, it was windy out, and I figured they had just slid a little. They were wooden, but not bolted down, so I pushed them back without saying anything and moved on. The second morning, it was harder to ignore. Both chairs were now almost touching the deck's railing, lined up side by side, perfectly facing the ocean. Not angled, not off balance, just placed like someone had set them there on purpose. And this time, I could see fresh scratches on the deck underneath. Thin, jagged lines, like they'd been dragged. I asked Casey if she'd moved them. She said, "No. Why would I?" I didn't have an answer, so again I slid them back. This time, I put 2 rocks in front of the legs so I'd know if they shifted overnight. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't scared exactly, but something felt off. The wind picked up, and I swear I kept hearing small thumps on the deck. I told myself it was just branches or the chairs creaking again. When I got up in the morning, the rocks I'd placed were still in front of the chairs, but the chairs were gone. Not gone like missing, gone like moved. I stepped outside in my socks and my stomach dropped. Both chairs had been lifted over the deck railing and placed on the other side, right at the cliff's edge. No more than 2 feet from the drop. They were still perfectly aligned, facing the ocean. Still side by side, like they were meant for someone. There were deep gouges in the top of the deck's wooden railing, fresh, with splinters still hanging from the edge. Something, or someone, had dragged the chairs up and over. They were too heavy for the wind to do that. And even if it could, how would it have done it so cleanly? The dirt around the base of the cliff was wet from mist. No footprints, no drag marks, no tire tracks nearby. Just those two chairs, sitting too close to the edge, staring out over the rocks and sea. I didn't say anything at first. I went back inside, sat down, and waited for Casey to wake up. When she came out and saw my face, she asked what was wrong. I didn't want to freak her out, but I told her what I saw. She laughed at first, thought I was joking. Then she saw the chairs. She didn't laugh after that. We packed up everything within 15 minutes, didn't eat, didn't check out with the owner, just threw our bags in the trunk and left. I called the rental owner later that afternoon, asked him if anyone else had keys or access to the place. He said no, just him. He also asked if we remembered to lock the deck gate. I said, "What gate?" He was quiet for a second, then said, "Huh?" Thought they added one last season. Then he hung up. We checked the listing again a week later. It had been taken down. Casey thinks it was some messed up prank. Maybe someone local, but that doesn't explain how they got onto the property without us hearing. Or how they lifted two heavy chairs over a railing silently. Or why they moved them closer each night, just a little bit, until they were almost right at the drop. I've stayed in cabins before, I've camped, I've hiked alone. But now, every time I hear waves crashing at night, I think of those chairs, sitting empty, still facing the edge, waiting. I spent the summer after high school working at a seafood dock in Maine. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid okay, and it kept me outside. Mostly, I moved crates, cleaned gear, and loaded trucks with lobster traps and bait. Boring stuff. The only part I liked was working around the boats, especially late at night when things got quiet. The water would go still. Just the soft hum of the generator and the buzz of the radios from the boats in the harbor. That's where it started. One night, around 10 p.m., I was stacking gear by myself when I heard something odd come through one of the marine radios. It was a voice, distorted, like it was underwater. All it said was, "Don't follow the lights." It gave me chills, but I figured someone was just messing around on an open channel. That happened sometimes. The radios weren't private, and there were pranksters and bored teens with scanners who'd mess around. I turned the volume down and kept working. The next night, it happened again. Same radio, same garbled voice. Only this time, it repeated the line 3 times. "Don't follow the lights. Don't follow the lights. Don't follow the lights." Then silence. It wasn't coming from our dock. I checked. None of the boat radios were on. The noise was coming from one of the personal radios we kept in the shack, the one nobody really used. That's when I got curious. I asked Rick, one of the older guys who had been around forever, if he'd heard it before. He gave me a weird look. "What channel?" I told him I didn't know, just that it was coming from our old radio. He walked away without answering. A few days later, it happened again. This time it was during a thunderstorm. The power flickered, and right after it came back, the radio started crackling on its own. Then the voice, "Don't follow the lights. They lead to the drop." I froze. I was alone in the shack. The wind was slamming the windows, and I swear I saw something out near the boats, like someone with a flashlight moving quickly along the docks, then disappearing behind a piling. I went out with a headlamp, but no one was there. I told Rick again the next day. This time, he didn't blow me off. "You hear the drop message?" he asked, dead serious. I nodded. He sighed and told me something I haven't been able to forget. Back in the 90s, 2 lobster boats went missing. Same night, same harbor. Weather was calm, no distress calls, no wreckage. Just gone. The only weird part? Before they vanished, both crews radioed in the same thing. "We're seeing lights, moving toward the open water. Gonna check it out." That was the last anyone heard from them. Since then, once every few years, someone hears that warning on the open radio bands. Always late, always vague. No one admits where it comes from. Most people think it's just a story to mess with the new guys. But Rick told me, "You hear that voice? You ignore it. Don't look for the lights. Don't even try to figure out who's saying it." I didn't want to believe it. Still don't. But one night, toward the end of the summer, I stayed late to clean up. The fog rolled in thick, so bad I couldn't even see the end of the dock. That's when the radio lit up again. This time, the voice was clearer. It sounded like it was just outside the shack. "Don't follow the lights, they don't want you to leave." Then, like clockwork, I saw them. Faint orbs in the fog, way out on the water, pulsing soft white, then blue, slowly moving in a line, like someone was carrying lanterns just above the surface. I stood there, frozen, watching. Every part of me wanted to move closer, but I remembered Rick's words. I shut off the radio, turned out the lights, and sat in silence until sunrise. I never saw the lights again after that. But sometimes when the fog rolls in thick and the dock is quiet, I swear I hear something over the radio. Not the words, just the static. Like something's waiting for me to tune in again. Rick retired that fall. I never asked him if the message had changed over the years. But if you ever find yourself working near the water at night and you hear a voice say, "Don't follow the lights," do yourself a favor, don't. There's always someone in the last frame. There's this old photo booth on the boardwalk near where I grew up. It's one of the only original things left. Everything else got remodeled, repainted, or torn down over the years. But the booth stayed the same. Faded paint, scratched glass, 4 black and white shots for $5. It's kind of a local thing. Everyone takes pictures in it at least once. It's part of the boardwalk's charm. Until this summer, I never noticed anything weird about it. My younger cousin Alex was visiting from out of town. He's 14 and into photography, so we spent a lot of time walking around the boardwalk taking pictures of old rides and signs. One afternoon, he ducked into the photo booth while I was getting us drinks. When I came back, he handed me the strip of photos. The first 3 shots were normal. Alex smiling, making a face, giving a peace sign. But the last one, there was someone behind him. Just a blurry figure, barely visible over his shoulder. Not close, but there, standing outside the booth window, no face, no features, just there. I asked if he noticed someone outside while he was in there. He said no. I figured maybe someone walked past at just the right time. Weird, but not impossible. Then he said, "I heard something, though." Like a whisper. Right before the last flash went off. That made me pause, but again, it's an old machine. Probably makes weird noises. The next day, we walked back to the booth. Alex wanted to try it again, this time with me in the shots too. We took our 4 photos, both of us in the frame the whole time. We even smiled and leaned in so we wouldn't miss anything. The strip printed out 30 seconds later. First 3 frames, fine. The last one, a man behind the glass, watching us. I'm not exaggerating. He was standing right outside the booth, half visible behind the foggy pane. Older maybe, wearing a hood or something dark. We hadn't seen anyone standing there when the picture was taken. And here's the part that chilled me. His face was blurred, but not in motion, just smeared. Like the camera didn't want to capture him clearly. I turned around fast, thinking someone was messing with us. No one was there, no one had walked by, no one was near the booth. It was a slow day and we were in a quieter part of the boardwalk. I didn't want to scare Alex, so I played it off. Just a glitch. These old machines mess up sometimes. But that night I couldn't stop staring at the strip. I took a photo of it on my phone and zoomed in. The figure wasn't completely in focus, but the head was tilted, like he was listening to something. I couldn't sleep. The next day, I came back alone. I asked the guy running the nearby taffy stand if he knew anything about the photo booth. He gave me this tired look and said, "Still working, huh?" I nodded. He said, "There's always someone in the last frame. That's why most locals don't use it anymore." I asked what he meant, and he just shook his head. Ask the guys at the arcade. They've had to throw out a bunch of photo strips over the years. People complain, kids get scared. Nobody ever catches the person in real life, only in the pictures. I went to the arcade and asked the guy at the prize counter. He didn't say much either, just, "You'll never see him in the first 3 shots." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I did something stupid. I went back after dark. I brought a flashlight, stood by the booth, and waited. Tried to catch anyone sneaking around. Nothing. Finally, I took one more set of pictures by myself. Sat inside, didn't smile, just stared at the lens. The machine flashed once, twice, third time, then something shifted, I swear. For the 4th flash, the light was brighter, hotter, like it buzzed in the air. The strip printed out. And just like before, last frame, someone behind me, but this time they were closer, right behind the glass. Face still blurred, but closer. Too close. And in the reflection, my own face was looking away. I don't even remember turning my head. But in the final shot, I wasn't facing the camera. I was staring toward the glass, toward the figure. I left the photo strip on the counter and walked away. Didn't go back the next day, didn't say anything to Alex. A week later, he sent me a text. Tried the photo booth again before we left. He's still there. I didn't ask for the photo. I don't want to see how close he is now.